Are Tottenham about to drop 25 million euros on a 23-year-old super Spanish talent? Meanwhile, there are conflicting reports that Spurs are potentially close to bagging a Polish wonderkid winger, and there's a twist in the Ivan Toney merry-go-round. Is he about to sign on the dotted line at Old Trafford? All this and more on today's episode of Daily Premier League Transfer News with me, Barnaby Slater. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Please do give the video a like. Press the subscribe button to get daily content from me about all things transfers and other news from the Premier League and further afield during this summer break. And press the bell button so you know when the videos are coming in. Also, you can become a member, only £1 a month. All the details in the description box. That really helps me make this content for you. But let's get started, of course, as always, with Tottenham Hotspur. And according to some reports, Spurs are in the final stages of completing a deal to sign Fenerbahce midfielder Sebastian Szymanski. Easy for me to say, Szymanski. Spurs' bid apparently worth 25 million euros plus bonuses. However, as ever, the Don, the man on the inside, Alistair Gold, he got his phone out. He heard about these reports. He was like, not sure about this one. So he calls his people in the know at Tottenham Hotspur. He says, I asked a few people around about Szymanski, and nothing really came of that unless something has very quickly developed. Well, we all know, if you listen to the Gold and Guest Talk Tottenham podcast, the podcast that they do together, for Football.London, then you'll know that Spurs only actually sign players when Alistair Gold goes on holiday. It is a strange quirk, but Gold is not on holiday at the moment, so it seems unlikely that Szymanski will come in. But let me know what you think about him in the comments. I've had a few comments from you guys about Szymanski already. Is he someone you want to see come through the door? Another player that Tottenham currently rumoured to be interested in quite heavily is the goalkeeper, Juan Garcia, the Spanish goalkeeper from Espanyol. Apparently also Arsenal and Real Madrid interested in him. Spurs want him to provide cover and serious competition to Guillermo Vicario. That is a rumour coming out of the Spanish press. Now, I have to say, I've not talked a lot about goalkeepers this summer, but if Vicario were to get injured, we would be royally screwed. No offence, no shade to Fraser Forster or either of our two young talented keepers, but the two young talented keepers have never ever played a top level game, basically. And Fraser Forster is now in his late 30s, and well, let's face it, we saw him in that Carabao Cup game last season away at Fulham, and he just doesn't get down very easily anymore. And is he really fit for purpose when it comes to Ange Postecoglou's style of distribution from his goalkeeper, getting it out short, getting it back from his defenders, splitting the lines sometimes, being brave with his passing? I'm not sure if that is exactly Forster's game. So it makes sense to me that we are looking for some cover for Vicario. However, the rumours are that this is Garcia has a £25 million release clause. Now, as I've said before, in Spain, every player contractually has to have a release clause. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he is going to be available at £25 million. I imagine Spurs will think about trying to get Garcia for maybe around 10 to 15 million. Is that the kind of money that you would be happy with Spurs spending on a backup goalkeeper? This takes me back all the way to the early days of the Pochettino era, actually, where I felt like I was completely shocked when Spurs bought Ben Davies and Michel Vorm together. And Vorm was a proper first-choice Premier League goalkeeper for Swansea back then, and we got him in as cover, and he really did do excellently as cover for us for a number of years. We then dropped off in terms of goalkeeper cover, I think, when we brought in Paulo Gazzaniga, and if you remember, Hugo Lloris broke his arm away at Brighton back in the kind of latter days of the Pochettino era, and we had to play Gazzaniga for a long time and in the Champions League, and we really suffered for that. So the reason I'm telling you that is because I do think it's absolutely vital that we have some proper goalkeeping cover who can push Vicario onto higher levels in training every day, and even ideally make him think, am I guaranteed to be number one? You've got to give it to them lot down the road in South London, Arsenal. They weren't sure. Mikel Arteta was not sure about Aaron Ramsdale in terms of being a Premier League winning goalkeeper. So they brought in David Raya as proper cover. And the press went mad. All the pundits on Sky and BBC went mad. They said, you cannot bring in two number ones. But has it worked for Arsenal? I'm afraid it has. Raya is an unbelievable keeper. I think he won the Golden Glove Award for the most clean sheets in the Premier League last season. They've got him finally on a permanent deal now for £27 million after that initial one-year loan deal. And it's worked out for them. So I do think Spurs need to be forward-thinking on this one and get proper cover in for Vicario. And maybe that's why Garcia is being talked about. As you know, as I've talked about this week on my videos, and if you haven't seen them, please do give them a look. Spurs now back in pre-season training. All the players who haven't been on the international break or playing at the Euros or the Copa America. Lucas Bergvall, a very exciting young Swedish signing. He has given some quotes about his first week at Tottenham. He says, "It's going really well. This is a fantastic club with amazing players and amazing staff. So I'm really happy to be here and begin pre-season. Training has been really good, tough as well, so much speed and power. So yes, it's been tough, totally different from Sweden, but it's fun as well. It's really important time for me, important to get to know everyone before the season starts so we can form that good connection." The thing that fascinated me about that was him talking about so much speed and power, different from Sweden. So get the feeling from Bergvall that maybe it's transported him up a level, and it's really exciting for me that he's managed to come in from the first day of pre-season so that level doesn't surprise him kind of later on and doesn't give him the time to adapt to what undoubtedly will be a better level. But technically, he seems like an incredibly gifted player, and I, for one, am excited to see him in the pre-season games starting at Hearts. I've got a really good feeling about Bergvall in terms of just his fearlessness and his want to get the ball. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Reminds me of when Dele Alli came into the club from MK Dons. He was totally fearless, nutmegging Luka Modric in his first game in that Audi Cup back in, I think it was 2015, 2016. And he really went on from there to become an absolute legend for Spurs in that kind of 4-5 year period when he was at his best. And I hope Bergvall can do the rest. He's on the golden boy list for the nominees for the best young talent in the world, and we have done incredibly well to get him ahead of clubs like Barcelona, and I really hope and I'm confident that he will get game time this year, both in the Premier League and more so, I think, in the Europa League. More from Ali Gold from his podcast and his YouTube channel. If you don't check out Ali Gold's YouTube channel, make sure you do. He does a weekly long-form report on all things Tottenham. Can highly recommend it. And like I said, the Golden Guest Talk Tottenham podcast as well. He has a feeling that George Abbott is going to be one of the academy players who's going to be pushed towards the first team this season. He says if he doesn't end up going on loan, people at the club were very pleased with George Abbott last year in terms of his development. He received a Premier League appearance under Ryan Mason in the previous campaign, and he essentially became the captain of the Tottenham under-21s in the second half of last season. They are very pleased with his ability to play in multiple positions. Well, what does that tell you? Once again, Big Ange Postecoglou, he wants variety. He wants players who can play across different positions. He wants Tottenham to become a fluid team where players who come in and out from the academy, off the subs bench, are able to fit in multiple positions. Archie Gray has been brought in just for that. He can play at right back and central midfield. And I think Ange Postecoglou has such a clear vision, and that's so exciting for Spurs because that has not been the case in recent years whatsoever. When we had Conte, when we had Nuno, when we had Jose Mourinho, it was not so forward thinking. And Johan Lang and Ange Postecoglou and Scott Munn all facing in the right direction and looking to get players in who are able to fit the style, have the attributes technically, and slot in various different positions. Meanwhile, another young talent who we bought a year or so ago, Luka Vuskovic, he can't play in England at the moment because he hasn't got enough kind of work permit points. So Spurs are kind of working him around Europe in terms of loans that he's been on. He's now officially joined KVC Westerlo in Belgium on loan for the 24-25 season. They've given a little quote about that. They say, with Vuskovic's arrival, we emphasise our club's excellent functioning youth development scheme, which has previously proven to be an outstanding development platform for young talents. Together with our entire staff, we look forward to playing an important role in the further growth of his already promising career. If you don't know much about Vuskovic, he's a very exciting, tall, powerful centre-half who's good on the ball as well. And that's really, really interesting for me that Westerlo have said that they are looking to help him develop his career as well. So obviously they want him for their first team now, but also they're aware of exactly what Tottenham need from the clubs that Vuskovic is going out on loan to. And very exciting about Vuskovic in the long term for Spurs once he is allowed to come in and play in the Premier League. Meanwhile, Ali Gold has also talked about this week how Spurs apparently are in advanced negotiations over a replacement shirt sleeve sponsorship deal, which will apparently dwarf the previous £10 million a year deal that they got from Cinch. Cinch are no longer our sleeve sponsor. Now, I've talked a bit before about how disappointed I was that Tottenham have got BetMGM as their training kit sponsor. I'm really hoping we don't go for another I would say betting brand, but we won't be allowed to have another betting brand because that will go against the contract with BetMGM. But I don't know. I just hope we get some kind of reputable sponsor for the sleeve. And also, let me know what you think, but nothing too kind of embarrassing. I don't know what an embarrassing brand would be. Let me know in the comments what you wouldn't want as Tottenham's sleeve sponsor. Over to the Copa America. Christian Romero, Gio Lo Celso and Argentina have made it to the final. They played Canada. Romero played all 90 minutes, completed 72 of his 79 passes, 2 passes into the final third. 1 block, 3 clearances, 1 headed clearance, 1 interception, 3 ball recoveries, 3 out of 3 ground duels, 1 of course, 2 out of 2 aerial duels, 1 of course, and 2 fouls, 1, and didn't commit a foul. I saw someone write a great tweet that said he may not have officially committed a foul as per the referee giving it, but he committed plenty of fouls that the referee didn't see, which of course is very Christian Romero. I guess you can look at this in 2 ways. One is, would it have been better if Argentina had gone out of the Copa America earlier, so we got Christian Romero back for pre-season? Arguably, but I think Romero is so passionate and patriotic about Argentina that he will just be in a better buzz. His morale will be much higher if they win that Copa America. This Argentinian team have ripped up everything, winning the World Cup. Looks like they're going to win the Copa America as well. And of course, another positive, Gio Lo Celso getting a little bit of game time here and there and putting himself in the shop window. That rumour of him going to Aston Villa still hasn't gone away. Teddy Sheringham. Maybe some of you too young to remember Teddy Sheringham playing for Spurs, but back in the early 90s, and then when he came again after leaving for Man United in the late 90s, he really was an unbelievable player for Spurs. And he's given some quotes about Spurs. He's been asked about Spurs this week. He was asked about whether he thought Ivan Toney should go to Spurs. He says, "I'd love to see Spurs make a move for Ivan Toney. They still haven't replaced Harry Kane, in my opinion. Heung-min Son is a good player, but he isn't a striker. They need leaders in that team who can pick others up when the going gets tough. Toney would be a great acquisition, especially after that performance against Slovakia for England." And I'm sure he also means the penalty that he scored in the last game as well. He came on and led the line and got them back into the game. He's a proper old-fashioned centre-forward that can score a goal and bring other players into the game. And he looks like just what Spurs need after losing Kane. Interesting, isn't it? Obviously, Teddy Sheringham's a bit older. He really feels like the big number 9 is the only option you can have. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case with the type of football that we play under Ange Postecoglou. I think we could play with a false 9. I saw someone talk about it on Twitter yesterday. Could, further down the line, Dejan Kulusevski be a really good option for a false 9 for Spurs if we've got pace out wide alongside him? And I don't hate that idea because Kulusevski is an elite presser of the ball. He's got so much energy. I can really imagine him pressing down centre-backs and pressing down strikers. He's a great finisher, especially on his left foot, but we've also seen him power one home this season with his right foot away at Nottingham Forest. I actually wouldn't mind it if Dejan Kulusevski took more shots on his right foot. Of course, he also scored that right foot banger, the winner against Sheffield United at home in the last minute too. So I think Kulusevski could be an option if further down the line Postecoglou chooses to go more of a false 9 option. I do like Ivan Toney. There are some question marks over his personality, and he's talked about wanting to go to Real Madrid. He's talked about wanting to go to Arsenal. Is Spurs really the move he wants? And Ange Postecoglou is obviously huge on players only coming to the club if they really want to come. So I don't know. I don't know if that one's going to happen. Meanwhile, Sheringham was also asked about Archie Gray. He said, it's a big money signing, that's for sure. Having said that, I'm sure he'll be great, and he's an exciting young talent who can play in a number of different positions. I'm delighted for the lad, and hopefully he can kick on for Tottenham. I bet he can't wait for the season to start. I watched him at Leeds last season. He definitely has a bit about him, so good luck to him. I have to say, maybe this is my cynical hat, but that quote feels like maybe Teddy Sheringham hasn't watched Archie Gray that much, and he's just kind of paying platitudes to him. But it's good to see an old Spurs legend talking about the club. It's a bit difficult with Teddy, because when he first left Spurs, he left to go to Man United. He went and won the treble. Then he came back to Spurs, played under Glenn Hoddle when we had kind of numerous old men playing for the team. We had Teddy, we had Gus Poyet, we had Darren Anderton still playing for the team. We had Dean Richards. He wasn't that old. He was about 28, 29. But Teddy then went off and played for West Ham. So it's not as simple as you'd think to think of Teddy as a legend, but he was, especially in the early 90s, an unbelievable footballer. We got him from Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest. He'd been, if I remember, one of the top scorers or the early scorers in the first season of the Premier League, came to Spurs and was fantastic. Anyway, on to now some more general Premier League transfer rumours and news and from further afield as well. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that Man United's £42 million bid for Leny Yoro has been accepted, but Yoro's preference is to move to Real Madrid, and that is hindering the deal. Real apparently at this stage offering way less than Man United, which I'm surprised about, to be honest, because Man United do not have, from everything we've read, a huge amount of money to spend budget-wise until they sell a lot of their players. But Real Madrid are hoping to wait to sign Leny Yoro next summer on a free. Paris Saint-Germain, Liverpool are also interested, but Yoro is waiting for Real Madrid. He's a very exciting young talent from Lille. Lots of clubs are in for him. Rumours that Spurs were in for him earlier in the summer, but it looks really like he wants Real Madrid, but Man United trying to kind of go in early and get him before. Meanwhile, mentioned Ivan Toney earlier, Man United are discussing him as a possible move to Old Trafford. Brentford want around 60 million, but United believe a fee close to 40 million would do it. I've talked to a number of you in the comments this week about Toney. Would you be upset to see Ivan Toney go to Man United ahead of Tottenham Hotspur? Would you want us to bid 40, 45 million pounds for him? For me, it comes down to Richarlison. If Richarlison gets a bid from Saudi Arabia that is worth the kind of 60 million that we paid for him, and we lose Richarlison, then yes, I would take Ivan Toney. But I cannot see a world in which we have Toney and Richarlison fighting for that number 9 spot. It seems unlikely, especially when we've got Sonny as well as an option. Meanwhile, according to Plettigol, the German journalist, who if you don't follow, do, says that United and Bayern are not close yet to a deal for Matthias de Ligt. All the rumours over the weekend was that one was going to happen. I've mentioned this week, it now looks final that Mason Greenwood is going to go to Marseille. The deal is 31.6 million plus 4 million add-ons. I just wanted to talk a bit more in depth about this one. Should Man United, in your opinion, let me know in the comments, should Manchester United be taking money for Mason Greenwood? It's a very difficult one. If you're not aware of the situation, basically Mason Greenwood was filmed by his partner saying very aggressive, abusive stuff that he was then arrested for, and then further down the line, as it was going to trial, his partner and him actually got back together and she dropped her witness statement, from everything I understand. But the stuff that he said and he was caught saying, which was incredibly abusive and disgusting, meant that Man United have not been able to play him since. Obviously, they sent him out on loan to Spain last season. But I think it's a difficult one morally. Man United trying to get as much money as they can for him. They're not going to play him. They know that his position is untenable in England, in the Premier League. But should they be looking to get 30 million euros in for him? It just doesn't leave a good taste in the mouth to me. I mean, you see a lot of Man United fans on Twitter saying, you know, he should be playing for the club because he hasn't been found guilty. But it's a very difficult one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Meanwhile, Manchester City have accepted bids of around £20 million from Southampton and Ipswich for their youth team academy prospect Liam Delap. Ipswich have reached an agreement for him, apparently, according to David Ornstein, one of the great journalists around. £15 million plus £5 million add-ons. Ipswich are spending this summer to try and keep themselves in the Premier League. Be interesting to see whether Delap ends up at Southampton or Ipswich. Man City, as they always do, putting in a buyback clause there and a sell-on clause. Manchester City, you know, one of the things you talk about with Manchester City, we talked a lot about the kind of financial fair play, 115 charges, the kind of what people call corruption in terms of being able to buy the biggest players and best players in the world. You know, their argument for a number of years before they signed Jack Grealish, Man City, was, oh, we've never spent £100 million on a player, so I don't really understand why everyone has a go at us. But they have spent kind of between 40 and 60 million pounds on 50 players. But one thing that you've got to say for Man City is they invested early in their academy. They threw huge amounts of money in their academy, and as a result, for a number of players who've barely ever played for the first team, by which I mean a handful of appearances, like Delap, you've got to say even Cole Palmer didn't play many more than maybe 30, 40 times for Man City. They have got, I think, 4 academy products, about £400 million in through the door. And that is why they are always in such a good position in terms of profit and sustainability rules. And it looks like Liam Delap, who's hardly played for them, they're going to get £20 million for. Tottenham Hotspur, take heed, invest in the academy and get it to a place where other clubs are buying players who you're not bringing through into the first team for big money. Madueke is a great example of that. He was in Tottenham's academy. They should have brought him through. They should have given him minutes. And because they didn't, he went away for free, went to Holland, and then Chelsea paid big money for him. Speaking of Chelsea, they're among the clubs monitoring Francisco Conceição and may make a move for the Porto player before his release clause increases next Monday from 30 million euros to 45 million euros. Chelsea are also very motivated this summer, apparently, according to The Athletic, to sell Lukaku, Kepa and Sarr. Broja, Kasedi, Chalobah and Fofana could also leave, and Conor Gallagher, as we know, his future is up in the air. Arsenal are apparently ready to sell Aaron Ramsdale. They want £50 million for him. That is a lot of money, but he is obviously an England reserve keeper. He is a good goalkeeper, but they've chosen Raya, and apparently Arteta is now looking for a backup keeper to replace Ramsdale. Where do you think Ramsdale could go? Who could you see him playing for? There was lots of links last season linking him with Newcastle, but they have bought a reserve keeper now, and I don't think they'd want Pope and Ramsdale at the same club at the same time. Meanwhile, talking about Newcastle at St James's Park, in terms of transfer rumours about Eddie Howe's team, Jared Bowen from West Ham is a strong preference for their right-sided attacking role, and Newcastle are confident a deal can be done. Other names that they are looking at are Anthony Elanga from Forest, Noni Madueke at Chelsea, and Crescencio Somerville at Leeds. They've also added Jonathan David to their list of striker options. Spurs obviously also interested in him. Apparently, Man City could still move for Bruno Guimaraes, and Newcastle do expect Anthony Gordon to stay despite the drama on profit and sustainability rules deadline day, as we're now calling it, back on the 30th of June, where Liverpool were offered the chance to sign Gordon, but they turned it down at the last minute. Over to West Ham, they've submitted a bid for John Duran from Aston Villa. The bid is worth £35 million plus a 10% sell-on clause. Negotiations underway, according to Fabrizio Romano. West Ham impressing me with the depth of talent that they're looking to sign this summer under Julian Lopetegui. Be interesting to see how he does. Meanwhile, don't know if you watched that semi-final last night between Spain and France, but Nico Williams once again looked good. He wasn't the best player on the park. We know who was. But Nico Williams has apparently agreed personal terms with Barcelona. That'll be a great deal for them. And finally, obviously, it's the England semi-final against Holland tonight. Gareth Southgate was asked his opinion on the story I talked about yesterday, which is the referee, Zweier, and his history of match fixing and having a fallout with Jude Bellingham about it, because Bellingham did a press conference after their Clasico where he called out the referee about that. Southgate said, "Everyone knows how I deal with referees, with complete respect for every referee. I've no concerns about who the referee is. He'll be at a very high standard because that's how UEFA make those decisions." How do you think it'll go? Will the referee kind of err on the side of England because he knows that we know about his match fixing? Or will he go the other way and go completely against England because of what Jude Bellingham has said to him before? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Please do give this video a like. Press subscribe if you haven't already, and the bell button so you know when my videos come into your YouTube. And please do join as a member. Only £1 a month. All the details in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck to England in the semi-finals tonight. Have a great day.